Welcome back to 90 Seconds Plus, and today we've got Deputy Mayor Tom Campbell. So the Mayor's away on holiday, so we'll put it over to Tom. So how do you see the year playing out, Tom, as we lead into the election in October?
Okay, well, interesting you mentioned the election, mate, because I think critical issue for council is that we stick to the knitting for the next 8 months. We don't get any electioneering, we don't get any bandwagoning. There's a few critical issues, and we'll talk about a couple of them, that we've got to work through, and we'll not be able to do that if our minds are somewhere else.
Yes.
So, I'm not going to be saying anything about my campaign or anything like that through until at least the middle of the year, because we've got to work through that other stuff, a lot more important.
Yeah, I think it's important. Otherwise, it's a distraction, and it takes away the focus of the important stuff we've got to do, which is obviously from rates, obviously the rates increases, etc., or keeping rates down, as well as it's Three Waters, or New Water done well, I think.
That's right. So look, there's several, but there's two critical issues that I think are worth talking about. So we'll talk about rates signed, right? Yeah. But the first one, how we organise ourselves around Three Waters. Yeah. Now, the last couple of years, and I've got to say, Nobby's fought a really good battle in this respect, with central government as well as locally. How do we organise ourselves to get the best result for ratepayers? So let me give you a couple of examples. So and we've been urged to go into a larger grouping of councils. Say it's Southland Otago, right? Yeah. Or an alternative is we could do it ourselves. So the difference between these two is that if we go into that larger grouping, it will cost ratepayers about $700 a year more. Yeah. That's government's analysis. That's the numbers that the government consultants are showing us. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there are people who will argue that, greater good and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, look, I was elected to represent the people of Invercargill. That's right. Not the people of Queenstown or the people in Dunedin. Yeah. I wish them well, yes. But we'll do whatever is the best result for Invercargill. And at the moment, the best result comes from working on our own. Yeah. And the danger of that whole, it's basically technically centralisation of, if we did do that, go down that route, which is dangerous because we dilute our control from our own local control over what say we have, because it gets to, if we joined, as I said, a couple of other councils, suddenly it's a three-way rather than just a one-way relation. That's right. Yeah. And how much would attention would our work get if we were competing with Queenstown and Dunedin for resources? So that's right. So that's one issue. But the bigger issue is actually it's just so much more expensive because, actually our assets are in pretty good shape. Yes. We've kept up to date. Ratepayers have paid for where we are at the moment. That's right. We don't want to subsidise other people. Central government, although they're not mandating this, but they're encouraging us to work with other people because they want to smooth the cost. Yeah. They don't want Dunedin or Queenstown to carry it. They would rather that we carried a share of that. Yes. Yeah. And, we want to be nice guys. We want to play jolly hockey sticks with everybody. Yes. But we're not going to pay $700 a year extra in rates to do so. So that's what. So by within a few months, that'll go to public consultation. Public will probably be offered either 2 or 3 options. Standing alone, or getting into what's called a council-controlled organisation, which we run ourselves, or else get into some wider grouping. There's been no decision what goes to consultation, so I'm speaking a little bit out of turn. But I think that's where it's heading, right? Yeah. And then I think this is one of these technical issues in the sense that, to understand it is not easy. But the public really need to understand it, because if we just do the wrong thing, with the best intentions, encouraged by various people, then we'll find ourselves, significantly out of pocket. Yeah. And I think, and the other thing is, good old Southland thing. We roll our sleeves up, and we've got that can-do attitude. So it's not that we have done for centuries. That's why we don't have a great big backlog, like some other people do. Yeah.
But again, we've been over the years. To be fair, councils in most cases have been responsible with keeping our infrastructure, especially the water infrastructure, up to scratch. So again, it's I think
we deserve to enjoy the benefit of that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, which in turn gives us lower rates, hopefully. So,
that's right. Anyway, turning to rates, which I know is the other thing. So, as you know, Nobby set a target for the chief executive of getting rates down to 3% or thereabouts. That's a big ask. Mm-hmm. So, the early forecasts we were getting were that it would be around 10. So if I take it, the difference between 10 and 3%, 7%, that is about $5 million a year. Yes. that Michael Day needs to find a way of taking out of operating costs. So to be sustainable, it has to come out of operating costs. No point in just being a 1 year cash injection, right?
Yes,
It's
right.
got to be genuine operating costs, sustainable long-term reduction.
Yep.
So that's about $5 million. That is not at all easy, but again, just to put it in perspective, our operating costs this year will be about 120 million.
Yep.
So 5 million represents about a 4% reduction in.
So it could be found.
So it's pretty tough, but it's more climbing Bluff Hill and Sandshoes. It's not climbing Mount Everest, right? And I think the other big issue is we must not do that just by cutting services, right?
Yep.
I mean, every business faces this from time to time, right? If you're a farmer, right, the milk solid price has fallen. You got to find a way of cutting cost. You cannot decide only to milk the herd 5 times a week, right?
Yes.
Still got to do it every day,
Yes.
right? so you've still got to provide that service, and I think for us, we've got to make sure that as we do look for ways of significantly saving money, we're not cutting essential services.
Yep. That is the important one.
Yeah.
But certainly it's been a challenge. But at the same time, I still feel, councils just seem to, in the past, seem to think they just keep clocking up the debt and clocking up the rates instead of actually looking internally and looking at it like a business and going, well, okay, where can we have some cost savings? I don't know if Michael Day has or whatever, but why doesn't the exec team, have they put it out to the other staff on how we could save costs? Because they might know, hey, in their own little department, they might be able to save money here and there.
Absolutely, exactly. And I think, look, that extends to council too, Michael. So we've got, and there's nothing we can do immediately in this because some of these things are mandated from government.
Yep.
But do we need 12 councillors?
Yes.
Could we get by with 10
Yep.
or less?
Yeah.
Do we need to have a separate deputy mayor compared to the chairs? Could one of the chairs be the deputy mayor?
Yeah.
If we're going to go to a sister city, could the councillors who enjoy that trip pay a little bit more for their share of it? So these are the sorts of questions that we as council have got to ask. So when it comes to internal cost cuts, mainly that's the chief executive. Council does not have a right to tell the chief executive what to do in that respect. He's got to work through it. We can give him a target. But when it comes to council, then we've got a responsibility, I think, to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, how could we cut costs around in council? It's not going to save a huge amount of money, but it sets an example.
Yeah. Look, one I think area they could save $500,000 is that, and it might upset some people, but the reality is this, what is it, community slush fund? What is it, feel good fund or world good fund? I mean, the reality is, we've got the ILT Foundation, the ILT, we've got the Community Trust South, and a number of other players that can fill that void. And I just think it's another layer that council doesn't need to be involved in.
Well, there'll be a lot of questions like that, but look, Trish Boyle actually chairs that group. And Trish Boyle's a great gatekeeper, right? Yeah. You don't get through the door and, get access to money unless you've got a very, very good, strong case. Yeah. So I think when you look individually at these, things that come forward, they're all individually supportable. The broader question, and the question you're asking is, if you helicopter above that, they may be individually supportive, but do we actually want to do that as a community? Yeah. So, and I'm not going to target that one because I know that Trish does a great job in that. But that's the sort of question we've got to be asking and be pretty hard-nosed, actually, about the answer, because I've used the metaphor before. We cannot just keep going to the well of, man, pa, ratepayer. That well is dry. Yeah. We got to find it. There's still things we want to do. I'd love to see an art gallery in the city, but we got to fund it internally.
Yes. Not
externally. If it is external, it's got to be other people's money, not ours.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Tom. All the best with your campaign later in the year. Well, that's 90 Seconds Plus with Deputy Mayor Tom Campbell. Until next week, we'll see you later.